In tonight's Government Insider, overhauling the federal security clearance process. On Friday, the Office of Personnel Management announced the establishment of the National Background Investigations Bureau. It's a new federal entity that will serve a vital mission by providing effective, efficient, and secure background investigations for Uncle Sam. The system needed an overhaul. For more, I'm joined by Eric Katz, staff correspondent for Government Executive. Eric, before we look ahead, let's look back at the impetus for this new entity. You write, the changes come after the dual concerns over both the screening process itself and the protection of personal data collected during investigations. Now, tell us more about those dual concerns. What happened?
Well, this really traces back to 2013 when Edward Snowden, the contractor for NSA, first made his leaks about the surveillance programs the agency was conducting. And then later that year, when Aaron Alexis, a contractor at the Navy, opened fire and killed about a dozen employees at the Washington Navy Yard. So that sort of prompted a large review of the security clearance process, background investigations. And then this past summer, when the OPM was hacked and 21.5 million files containing personal data of individuals was compromised and made public, or public by the hackers, and so that sort of prompted a secondary review, and this is sort of the culmination of both of those processes, and that's what we're seeing today.
Now, on Friday, a few hours before the blizzard moved into Metro D.C., OPM announced the National Background Investigations Bureau. How will the NBIB work, and who's in charge of it?
Well, so NBIB will take over what was known as the Federal Investigative Services. It'll be housed within the Office of Personnel Management and be responsible for about 90–95% of all the security clearance checks and background investigations. They will still be in charge of doing those checks, but the Defense Department will now be in charge of the information technology systems to make sure that they're more secure. The head of NBIB will be presidentially appointed, but will still report to the OPM director.
Now, everyone seems to be using a different term for the NBIB. It's being called a new office, a new agency, or a new system. You use the word entity. Is that term important?
Well, it's sort of a semantical argument, but the government itself is using the term entity. I would maybe put forward a different word. It's the OPM is an independent agency within the federal government, and this will be a component within that agency.
Now, from a staffing and budgetary standpoint, what does the Obama administration need from Congress to create the NBIB? Are they likely to get it?
Well, the administration is poised to ask for $95 million. They'll do that in their budget request coming forward in a few weeks. There's sort of a consensus here that in Washington that there needs to be some sort of changes to address this. There's been a lot of problems, as we discussed, and both sides of the aisle agree that there needs to be some reforms here. Whether this is the right approach, we'll see, but there's likely to be some sort of agreement.
And I can't imagine it's a political issue. Not much is going to get done up on Capitol Hill during this presidential election year, but this is the kind of thing that should be really an easy home run for both parties, particularly after the Aaron Alexis shootings, the Navy Yard, the easy way that people were getting security clearances and just kind of making their way through the system without really being checked out. Now, OPM hit a brick wall last summer. You mentioned the data breach. After those records were compromised, OPM took their background check system offline, but the background checks by the tens of thousands were still pouring in each week. That caused a backlog. Will history repeat itself when OPM migrates to this new entity?
Sure. Well, OPM's had a backlog with this for years now, and they've been chipping away at that backlog. But what their operative phrase here is that there's going to be no loss in the continuity of service. They're going to transition out their existing program into this new entity, and the background checks will continue to be done as without any interruption. So we'll see if that actually plays out.
Now, before you go, I'm curious, will this new system make government less reliant on contractors in this arena?
Well, they're still in the process of determining that. There's a new transition team that is involved with putting together this new entity, and they're still working out the details. Now, what it's replacing, FIS relied very heavily on contractors. OPM took some responsibility away from contractors in 2014 by making sure that federal employees were the ones conducting the final checks. But we'll see if this is going to be more federally based than the existing program.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it too. Eric Katz, staff correspondent for Government Executive. Thanks again, Eric.
All right, thank you.